Right now, Lifesaving South Africa is concerned about the rise in drownings since lockdown regulations were lifted. The drowning prevention and rescue body is now calling on government to pass legislation that could prevent drownings, this especially in the wake of hundreds of lives lost during floods that wreaked havoc in KZN. For more on this, we're joined by Dhaya Sewduth, the president of Lifesaving South Africa. Just to tell us more, Mr. Sewduth, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Give us a bit more of information as to why you're taking this route to ask government to even help. How many drownings are we talking about? Is it alarmist?
A very good afternoon to you, and thank you for the opportunity. At the outset, allow me on behalf of Lifesaving South Africa to extend sincerest condolences to all of the family members that lost loved ones during the course of the flooding in Durban and KZN. It's really tragic to have so many lives that have been lost. Coming to the question, if you look at flooding disasters, what we have been communicating to government, that in many instances drowning is preventable. So Lifesaving South Africa focuses primarily on prevention. We believe that government can enforce, develop and enforce legislation to prevent habitation encroachment on the floodplains, so that you're actually preventing people from being in areas that are at greatest risk. It's always vulnerable communities that end up living in such areas, but the local government, the relevant departments can actually prevent people from building there. We've seen in this year alone, it's been one of the worst disasters in Durban, but we've seen this year in Mamelodi, in East London, in George, and in other parts of South Africa, how the most vulnerable communities have been swept away when the flooding has happened, and unfortunately there have been lives lost.
So you're asking government to implement some legislation that would help in lowering our statistics when it comes to drowning. Exactly what do you suggest?
Well, certainly the relevant departments from COGTA, from including SALGA, could actually ensure that they have the relevant bylaws in each area that would empower government officials to prevent habitat encroachment in floodplains. And that is one way in which you could actually prevent people from being in those risk zones, as well as ensure that you don't have to then spread scarce resources across every one of these areas that have been devastated with the flooding.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. That is, of course, Dhaya Sewduth, the president of Lifesaving South Africa.